So my documentary was for the presidency of Barack Obama and how he led the country and what he said he was going to do. And for my artifact, I decided to recreate one of his old campaign posters with the logo and the slogan that says, "Change we can believe in," because it advertised what he was going to fight for, and he was going to give people hope that there would be change in the country that they could feel good about, and that it would help them with all of the problems that they were facing.
Barack Obama was born in Honolulu, Hawaii on August 4, 1961. In 1979, he went on to Occidental College in Los Angeles and then transferred to Columbia University after 2 years, graduating in 1983 with studies in international relations and political science. In 1985, he moved to the south side of Chicago, working to help improve housing and establish job training programs for people who were unemployed due to the closing of steel mills. In 1988, he attended Harvard University, where he received a law degree. As opposed to a much larger and more powerful law firm, he worked at a smaller law firm in Chicago, which focused on civil rights. His political career began in 1996, being elected as a senator in the Illinois state government. While he failed to become a state representative for the federal government in 2000, he became a U.S. Senator in 2004. With his political career rapidly growing, he took the nation by surprise as he surpassed all expectations during his presidential run in 2008, winning by 376 to 173 electoral votes against Arizona Senator John McCain. During his victory speech, he made immense promises to the people who had supported him for so long, thanking them and declaring that he would fight for them. His plans for bettering his country involved the core belief that
in this country we rise or fall as one nation, as one people. Let's resist the temptation to fall back on the same partisanship and pettiness and immaturity that has poisoned our politics for so long.
He did not support the rigid, polarizing party politics and wanted to appease both sides through a more bipartisan presidency, making his goal to appeal to and unite the opposing political sides. Obama inherited a dire situation, first having to deal with the disastrous Great Recession. The recession, deemed as the worst American economic crisis since the Great Depression, resulted from banks accepting riskier loans for mortgages and severely harmed the real estate and banking industries, causing immense losses for homeowners and for big banks. In a massively expensive act to relieve the damage of the Great Recession, Obama provided $350 billion of primary aid to the banks and creditors, causing 9 million foreclosures as homeowners were left with the major damages. Though not all of the policies enforced were entirely in his power, he also enforced the controversial move to spare bankers responsible for the Great Recession from punishment. However, the economy did see increased growth after the disaster was dealt with, making up for, in most eyes, the damages of the resolutions. Outside of this major move, his first year in office came with many accomplishments, signing an executive order to close the brutal detention centers at Guantanamo Bay and the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act to deal with gender wage gaps. His plans were mostly liberal and aided human rights, such as abolishing the HIV travel ban and the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies to help the LGBT community, as well as later legalizing gay marriage countrywide during his second term in 2015. He also signed more conservative bills, allowing once banned drilling in the Gulf of Mexico and Virginia coastline and extending George W. Bush's tax cuts on the upper class. However, his most important bill was the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. Under this new act, people can no longer have heavier costs for or be denied health care because of any pre-existing conditions, and families with less income would be able to more easily afford health care plans with premium tax credits. More people could receive Medicaid from a younger age to reduce costs, and people were allowed to be on a parent's insurance plan until they turned 26. It was a noticeable improvement, and the biggest bill to deal with health care since the 1960s. Throughout his presidency, Barack Obama received a large amount of both positive and negative reception. Though he was received well enough to be elected for a second term in 2012 over former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, his presidency proved to be a weaker one. Though some of his plans, such as legalizing gay marriage, were a huge benefit to people, others were ineffective and harmful. Despite the massive expansion of the Affordable Care Act, over 27 million people today are still left uninsured or paying heavily for their medical procedures, some people even bankrupting. The wage issues he sought to fix were not resolved, and Guantanamo Bay still holds prisoners. However, what hampered his presidency the most was not any radical action, but rather his moderate viewpoint and inaction. Due to his policy to stay bipartisan, he expressed less engaging opinions and was not strong with enforcing policies to support any one side. His attempts to please both sides came off as distancing himself from them in the process, his plans backfiring as both parties began to distrust him. As a result, Among one of the biggest consequences of his presidency was the loss of support for the party he represented. During his presidency, more seats for the Democratic Party in political positions were lost than under any other presidency. To quote Elaine Kamarck, writing for Brookings Institute in a summary of Julian Zeliger's The Presidency of Barack Obama, Obama was not just distant from the Republicans in Congress. He was distant from the Democrats as well. His reluctance to engage members of Congress cut across the aisle, with many Democrats just as furious as Republicans.
The course theme I chose was power, authority, and leadership. Obama uses power and authority to give a voice to both political parties, using his leadership more for pure democracy rather than for a forceful authority. However, because he was constantly shifting sides between the parties, it began to cause him to lose trust and support. And for the best connection to today, Obama's Vice President Joe Biden is the Democratic candidate for the 2020 election, and many people are skeptical. They fear a repeat of Obama with moderate policies and a loss of support for the Democratic Party that may even cause him to lose the presidential election.